Your laptop can now do every single thing that you were paying ChatGPT 5, Whisper, Claude, or Perplexity, or any other model you were paying for free, offline, without thinking they may or may not use your training data for whatever they want. Google just released Gemma 4 a few weeks ago, and I've tested this on a 5-year-old MacBook Pro. Gemma 4 is a local model by Google, kind of like Gemini that you would use within the API, and it runs on your local machine. It comes in 4 sizes. 26B and the 31B model are the big models. These you cannot run on a little Mac Air or something like that. But the E2B and the E4B models are smaller models that you can run even on your phone, on a Raspberry Pi, and on little things like that. So it's really impressive, and I'm going to share some of those results with you just now on what even these little models can do, just being on your phone and being able to use it without any API or subscription, or even without internet connection. Depending on what you do and where you are, that might be useful. So if you want to download and use the models, the easiest way to do it is just to go grab one on Ollama. You can use something like LM Studio to download it as well, and all of these different programs where you can just download it onto your machine. It's going to be a couple of gigs, so make sure that you have space for it, but this is basically how you get started. Now, if you have a MacBook Pro, you're already overqualified to use this thing, and it will work regardless of what else you have got going on. Now, if you're using something like LM Studio, you can just come in and download the latest Gemma model 4B, or even the bigger one, whichever one you want to use, and pull it into your chat here and load it up. You can also use this with something like Claude Code in your terminal. You can load these models there as well and continue doing everything you were doing right there. Now you can see a cool feature of this right away. It will show you what kind of tokens it used and what it did here. You kind of had to have the same functions as within like any tool that you know, like ChatGPT, Claude, or whatever. You can come off and branch this chat, copy it, edit your message, and do it again. So really everything you'd want to do. You also have control of the system prompt, which is really useful depending on whichever use case you want to do, and the settings and everything that you would know from any kind of OpenAI playground or whatever, where you can come and structure this all for you. As you know, the system prompts by Claude and whatever, they're all kind of public and have been leaked or shown in the past. So you can just go and model these and adjust it to your settings and what you're trying to accomplish and put it in here. I'll show you some examples shortly. Something Gemma 4 is really, really good at is visual recognition of screenshots and even videos. So I just dropped in some flight data screenshot here of a flight in Brazil, and it gave me all the information back in a table because that's what I asked it for. And it can do this very, very quickly. This took a total of 2 seconds. So if you have thousands of receipts that you don't want to share with OpenAI or Claude and you don't want to put on the internet, you could use something like Gemma 4 to really easily categorize these, sort them, tag them, put them in a spreadsheet, and prepare this for your bookkeeping. You can use Gemma 4 within LM Studio. You can use that with any kind of plugins. Like here we have a RAG plugin where you can connect with any kind of files that you want to put in. You can also use it with any kinds of other MCPs like you would know within Claude Code or OpenAI or whichever one of these tools, that you can connect with any tool that you want to using MCP servers, but also using it locally. So just using the information from the tool and not needing to share everything with the LLM provider, because you're literally using your own. So it doesn't just read everything, but it also watches video. It does an analysis, it looks at your videos, looks at the frames, and it can give you a detailed output. So anything you need to do, like rewatch client meetings on Fathom, Otter, Fireflies, whatever, or even analyze content like short form content on Instagram, YouTube, it can do that for you locally. It does the same with audio, and it can actually do both at the same time. So it will, replace any tools like OpenAI, the Whisper API. If you're using that right now, you can just run that locally. It will probably be cheaper, faster, and better. And you're not risking, an API not working one day or whatever it is. It just runs all the time locally. So if you're using something like Whisper Flow or whatever to transcribe audio, that might be something that you want to look into, as you can use it locally. It also does coding. If you know the model Sonnet 4.6 and you don't always use Opus because you know how to use it for specific tasks and you know that Sonnet is pretty good, Gemma 4 actually beat Sonnet 4.6 in most of the benchmarks itself. Here we see the comparison. Gemma 4 31B has 89% versus Claude Sonnet, which was less, right? GPT-5 with codecs was a little bit better here. I'm not technical, these are all kind of gamified benchmarks. I think we've had enough back and forth with all of these benchmarks, but it is impressive to see. And in my tests that I've been trying it out, it has been working really well, and it got everything done that I wanted to do. It's pretty crazy. The context window is not as big, so we don't have the million token context window. It's actually just 256K, so a quarter million in this case, but it does work really well, especially if you're using it with something like a RAG. I tried it out on my Obsidian files. I have a couple thousand files in there about everything, and it had absolutely no problem understanding my entire vault, everything that I have in there, everything that I do in there. So anything you're trying to do might be useful for smaller law firms trying to go through a bunch of cases that they don't want to share with all these models or whatever. They don't want it to hallucinate. This is all local in your own model, right? So there'll be less hallucination, there'll be less of it trying to go outside these boundaries, and it's all in here in one place. It also speaks every single language, so we will have almost every language that is covered, and the main languages from English, Spanish, whatever European languages, Chinese, Mandarin is all covered and easy to understand, right? So you don't need any translation APIs or whatever. It's by Google, right? So they have all these languages built in. Now, I think the most important part is, do I use something like Gemma 4, any local model for what I'm trying to do within my business? So there's a couple of use cases that I shared with you that are really useful: text, video analysis, looking at receipts, and all of this kind of stuff, which is probably your biggest bet. So if you're doing any kind of bigger process, let's assume you're in healthcare or an e-commerce business or whatever it is, where you're processing a large number of receipts, images, whatever it may be, that you can put into a clear process that you say, hey, this is how we do it all the time. We do X, Y, Z, here's your reference data, and you give it a harness and you let it walk through that. I think it might make sense. Let's say your API costs today are 500 and above. Many times running a local model will be cheaper in operating costs. If you run it in the cloud, like on AWS or any cloud server VPS, it will be cheaper for you to run that on your own local model or in your own servers than it would be if you were to be using the API, especially for these specialized use cases. If you're just trying to have the newest model for some questions or complex things, like you're using a lot of Opus 4.6 just to test the boundaries on what you can do with vibe coding and whatnot, it may not be for you. But again, in these videos, I'm also trying to break down what actually works for your business and where we're trying to implement it. So we're going to be implementing some of these local agents for specific use cases within our business, some of the email processing, some of the customer support that we're doing, just to test this out and to see the results. Right now, everything that I've tried so far on my personal machine has worked really well, and I think is worth trying. I think it's also worth trying to build out little things on your phone. Once you have these processes in place and it's working, you can update the local model, you can switch it, you can change it, and you don't need to rely on an API being overloaded or not working, or needing to use some kind of LLM router that then uses a bunch of other models that might not work in the same way as you would expect them to work for your processes. I think there's also really interesting processes that you could run here. For example, again, assuming you're an e-commerce business and you have a product catalog with thousands of products that have images, you could go ahead and say, okay, process these images and then write me a description that is SEO focused for each and every image. And that would be a really quick and easy way on how to use a local model with these image processing, video processing capabilities to quickly give you these outputs that you need for better SEO, for better presence without breaking the bank. So we're currently building out one of these agents for meeting transcript processing, where we're going to look at the meetings and we're actually going to have the analysis of our sales teams on the sales call and the outcome of such using Gemma 4. And if it's already published, I'm going to link it right here. And if not, leave it in the comments what use case you would see or what you're looking to build next, and I will cover it in the next video.